let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Get 'em, go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Get 'em, go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Get 'em, go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Get 'em, go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Get 'em, go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Get 'em, go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound, we on fire. Get 'em, go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Get 'em, go, get 'em. Let's go Cleveland. Dog pound, we on fire. Dog pound.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up? Welcome back, My Dogs Podcast family. This is your boy Thorough, and this is the My Dogs Podcast where my opinions, y'all already know, it's just my opinions. I got a good one for y'all. I got a special guest for y'all today. This guy, he loves my team. He loves your team. He loves the Cleveland Browns, and he's been lighting it up on YouTube. His YouTube page is crazy as bananas. The stories that he comes up with. This guy right here is becoming a legend in the game, and y'all know who this is. And I'm just happy that he's here to talk about the draft with me and with y'all, the My Dogs Podcast family. I got to bring my man in. Quincy Carter.
How you doing?
What's going on, sir?
I need a link to that song you got in the intro, man. It was getting me hyped.
Yes, that is he's from Cleveland. I don't want to hear Cleveland fan. I think he's from Cleveland.
Yeah. I gotta get it. I gotta get a link to that, man, for sure. Thank you for having me on.
Yes. So what's going on with you? What's going on with you, sir? Shout out your podcast. Where can they find you?
Find me on youtube.com/Quincy Carrier. You can put in Quincy Carrier Browns like you see right here, and my content, my video, my work will pop up right there. So always something to talk about when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Always a topic to get into. So I'm always having fun.
Okay, that's what's up. I'll say I'm not gonna hold you today. So we're gonna dive right into it. What do you think about this draft? First of all, we're just gonna start off with the second round. We're gonna start off with Mike Hall Jr. What did you think about that pick and it being the second pick?
Yeah, Mike Hall, our first pick. Yeah, Mike Hall has the potential to be the centerpiece of this draft class. He's only 20 years old, and I don't even think we really saw the full potential of what Michael Hall can even be as a college football player at Ohio State. It's very possible he could have went back to Ohio State for his senior year, played, balled out, and became a top 15 pick on that Ohio State defense. And this is now somebody who's out of reach for the Cleveland Browns. Especially in the defensive tackle class, it's going to be a little bit weaker than what this one was. So there's a chance that they felt like they got tremendous value. To me, when I saw him at the Senior Bowl, the energy stands out, right? Like, he's quick off the ball. He has violent hands. He's quick. He has energy. He's juice man at the practice, right? He's the one guy that's always clapping up his teammates, always getting guys ready to get back on the line, always ready to go on the line. Teams doing stretches. He's getting everybody hyped up. And I think that's important because I know people kind of like default to, they want defensive tackles to be mean guys, but what you want your defensive tackle and any player in the trenches to be is a competitor. And that's what I see when I look at Michael Hall. I'm like, oh, this dude likes to compete. This dude likes to practice, right? Like that's a big differentiator between a lot of guys who make it in the pros and who don't.
Okay. Now, do you see him getting on the field this year? What you think about that?
It's going to be tough because right now there's Maurice Hurst, there's Shelby Harris, there's Quentin Jefferson, there's Dalvin Tomlinson in that rotation. What I will say is that he's going to have an opportunity at some point to make an impact in that rotation, right? Because we know that Maurice Hurst is going to miss some games every year, right? We know that Shelby Harris is getting up there in age. He's not going to be healthy every week, right? Same thing. Well, Quentin Jefferson's not getting old at all, but there's going to be opportunities. They like to rotate these guys in and out. They want to keep them fresh. They want to be able to rotate as much in the interior so they don't have to throw Miles off the field to get him rest. So yeah, I think there's going to be an opportunity for Michael Hall to get some snaps and make a bit of an impact. And I think he has the ability to do that. Again, his issue at Ohio State to me was consistency, right? Can he consistently turn speed to power? Can he consistently keep that energy up, right? And that's where I factor him being 20. No 20-year-old is consistent. Like there's not a 20-year-old history of 20-year-olds that's ever been consistent, only consistent for a 20-year-old, right? So this is just something that you have to learn, right? Part of being consistent is just like having a good routine, knowing what you got to do. Like this part of him learning what to be a pro is. And another reason why I'm high on this pick and high on the Browns' ability to get the most out of this pick is this is such a different situation that the Browns are in than they've ever been in before, where we're not just drafting guys and then asking them to be thrown into the deep end and swim. We're drafting Michael Hall. We know he's 20, and we're going to throw him in a defensive tackle room with a ton of veteran players, right? Where the onus is not on him to play right away. The onus is for him to figure out how to be a pro. Right? Like that's what Dalvin Tomlinson's going to be there to teach him. Maurice Hurst is somebody who could teach him how to win with his exact same skill set because they have very similar skill sets. And you get to learn and grow and not be forced to be put in situations that aren't going to be helpful for you. So this is a spot where I like the pick. It's a developmental pick. It's a pick that, look, we have had plenty of these where Grant Delpit comes in, looks like a first-round pick now, right? JOK comes in, that looks like a first-round pick. DeJuan Jones looks like a first-round pick. Martin Emerson looks like a first-round pick, right? The Browns have had it's so crazy to talk about them like this. Like when I think about
AB.
Yeah, because it's like they have had so many situations to where like you look at their roster, you're like, you swear they had more first-round picks, but they haven't. They've had 2 first-round picks. Think about it. 2 first-round picks since 2020, but yet they still have these guys that they get on that they want to extend. They still have these first-round level talent players on the roster, and we still trying to figure out what we're going to do to keep all of them, right? JOK going to be coming up, and then after JOK, you get him handled. Now David Njoku's up for a 3rd deal, and then once you get him handled, you got Martin Emerson coming up for a new deal. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with Greg Newsome in a couple of years. They have, despite the fact that they have not made a ton of first round selections, despite the fact that they made the Deshaun Watson trade and lost all those draft picks, they still have a surplus of young talent. And I think Michael Hall has the potential to be one of those guys we talk about. We're like, where'd he go? Oh, I thought he was like 32nd or something like that in the draft.
Yes. But you don't think that the second round pick is too early before you're talking about a developmental player? Because me personally, I see him getting some playing time. Now, Dalvin Thompson, he's not going to get him now. Shelby Harris and Mo Hurst, I think if he's just somewhat on their level, we might be able to. I mean, you're gonna go with the younger guys because they're Mo is 28 and Shelby 32. I don't know what their contracts is like, and I don't know if we willing to part ways with them. But would you think that if he just comes in there and he plays almost up to their level, do you think we keep them
for this year?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they keep the beauty of where the Browns are is that they're like he could play at that level, and that just means we're deeper. We have we can go to more guys for more snaps or on a different rotation. There's no need to put him in a bigger spot than he needs to be in. And I think that is kind of a good thing, right? You look at teams across the board, like, you know, they usually don't have to draft these guys in the back end of the second round and have to force them into a giant role. That's what free agency should be for. And that's what your previous drafts and the guys that you selected there should be there for. Now, if he just breaks out and he's the best defensive tackle outside of Dalvin Tomlinson, of course he's going to get those starter minutes, right? Of course he's going to take that time, and the Browns will be thrilled to give him that time. But it's like a similar thing to JOK. It's a similar thing to Grant, even though Grant had that Achilles. They want to make sure that they want to make sure before we put you in a big spot, you have figured out what it is that's going to make you a great pro. Right? With JOK, it took him a while to figure out what it is going to make him a great pro. Last year, he figured it out. Then the snap count went up, right? And that's 3 years in. Grant Delpit took him a couple of years to figure out what was going to make him a great pro. And then he figures it out. Oh, in the NFL, I'm run stuff guy, right? I'm an extra linebacker kind of guy. I'm slot corner guy. And I'm not free safety guy in the NFL. So we figured that out with Grant.
Not to cut you off. I get where you're going. But check this out. Since AB has been our general manager, he's drafted a DT every year. So if he drafted a DT every year, he's only been giving them that year to prove themselves. To not, I mean, we got so I mean, I think he gonna want somebody to get out there today. I don't think he's gonna spend a second round pick for you to mold you 2 years down the road. He's got every draft he got a DT. And
every draft he's drafted a defensive tackle, but it's been like day 3. Some of them been day 2. Like I think Jordan Elliott was the last third round pick, right? And even those guys, they were willing to wait it out for them on the long term. Like they took Siaki Ika that last year. That's the only guy I could think of where I'm like, it doesn't feel like they got a plan for him anymore. But all those other guys they took, even Perion Winfrey, like he didn't get dismissed off the team because of impatience about his play. It became impatience about everything else associated with him, right? The multiple charges that he had, all those things. So that I think they'll be willing, like you draft a 20-year-old and you're in this position, you should allow that 20-year-old to mature at whatever rate it is. Now, he could come out and be a dog early on, and that's great. But if he's not, then I don't think you have to panic, because that's exactly what Shelby Harris is for. That's exactly what Maurice Hurst is for. That's exactly what Quentin Jefferson is for. That's exactly what Dalvin Tomlinson is for, is to give you that room to develop so you're not banking it all on a rookie, and so that rookie doesn't have that pressure, right? Like, I think he needs to figure out what's his bag going to be in the NFL. That could take a training camp. That could take a year. That could take 2 years. But the Browns have generally been very patient. Like, they have had varying levels of patience with the defensive tackles, like you mentioned, but I think those are different situations at times.
Yeah.
When you look at what they've done with second round picks, they usually wait that thing. I mean, like Anthony Schwartz, we waited out 4 years to hope he could catch a football. So they're going to wait it out. They're going to make sure that, like, hey, we put him in position to succeed. Jordan Elliott's a great example, right? We strung that thing out for 4 years with Jordan Elliott, and we finally got a good year out of him last year, right? So he's going to let him figure that out. And Andrew is very confident in his draft picks, and if he stood 10 toes down and said, no, I want to make this pick here at 54 when he could have traded back. And if he felt that confident in making that pick, that's not something that's going to wane in a year or two. He's going to stand on that until that rookie deal is over.
Yes. I mean, and what AB doesn't like to get rid of his draft picks too. He likes to keep them all. But okay, but all the DTs that you named, with Miles on one side and we got Za'Darius on the other side, are we getting the production out of them that we should be getting out of them?
The issue that the Browns had, like whenever people bring up to me, oh, the Browns were a bad road defense. One, I think those numbers are a little inflated, right? It counts an extra game against Cincinnati where we didn't play any starters. There's like 2 quarters in Houston where we didn't play any starters. There's, multiple pick sixes that are involved in that were thrown on the road. I think literally all of the Browns pick sixes came on the road this year, which is a wild occurrence when you have 5 of them.
Yes.
Like it's and then like the muff punt against Baltimore, there was a pick six. Like there's a lot of points that get added to the Browns road games that have nothing to do with the defense. But when the defense isn't playing up to spec, right? When they aren't being that dominant defense that we were thinking that they should always be, it's when the other team has completely sold out on blocking Myles Garrett, right? They're going to do everything they can to block Myles Garrett.
Yes, they're going to double team.
Then you can't win those one-on-ones with the interior guys, right? Like it was when like the San Francisco game is a great example of this. You look at that game, Myles didn't go off. Myles had a good game for sure. He was still Myles Garrett, but he didn't go crazy. But you know who did go crazy? Dalvin Tomlinson, because what they did in that game was pretty much roll everything to Myles and said, we're going to give you a 2-way go, Dalvin Tomlinson. Like, beat us. And Dalvin Tomlinson beat you. Same thing happened to him in the Seattle game. He didn't win those 2-way goes, right? Like when you saw the defense start to falter towards the end of the season, it's no mistake that Maurice Hurst was hurt. And that was one of your best penetrators on those 2-way go situations. So I think that's what Michael Hall is brought in to do immediately. It's like, hey, you're going to get 2-way goals if you're out there with Myles Garrett. We need guys who can win those 2-way goals. That's why they brought in Quentin Jefferson. They focus on that pass rush win rate, right? They want guys who can get those 2-way goals, who can get those one-on-one type situations in the interior and win and create havoc because they're so athletic at linebacker. They're so athletic at safety. They're so athletic on the defensive line that if you just create a little bit of chaos, there's a good chance that a big play can be made.
Okay. So now let's get to the 3rd round pick. What do you think about the guard out of Michigan? What do you think about him? And before you say something, me personally, I love Andrew Berry. Can do nothing wrong with in my book. That's him. He's by one of the best GMs the Browns has ever had. But the only problem that I've been having with the Browns picks is we will pick a guard or attack. We will pick somebody up and we will move them. What do you think about us picking him up at guard? And do you think that we're going to try to slide him to center, or do you think that we're going to really try to develop him at the left guard or whatever?
I hope they don't try to move him to center. I would doubt that they do that. Was Zach Center like 6'6"?
Zach is 6'6", 320.
Yeah, he's much too large to be playing center. So I think they'll keep him at guard. The question is, which side are they going to want him to primarily play on? Like, he's going to have to learn both sides. We aren't nice to guards like we are to tackle. Like, we're nice to tackles. We understand that right to left is a big switch. With guards, we act like they should be able to do that, right? Like, it's a cruel world out there. But he was a right guard at Michigan for most of his career. So with Zach, the question is, he won with strength a lot in college. He run by being bigger than the guys that he was blocking. That worked great against UNLV. That worked great against Rutgers. That worked great against Maryland. Even worked great against Penn State. But when he played against Ohio State, it wasn't the same type of domination that you like to see. Michael Hall actually got the better of him before that injury happened. Zach is somebody that I'm going to wait and see before I have a full opinion on, because I think he really needed the pre-draft season and he needed the postseason because he got injured. And what that meant was not only did he not get to play in that Alabama game, which I think would have been very useful for him if he could have had a good game there, it would have changed a lot of people's opinions about him. And also the Washington game, right? Like, we need to see him go up against more elite talent. And he's somebody who really needed a Senior Bowl, right? We want to know if he can win one-on-one on an island. We want to know if he can win without relying on strength, right? Because that was one of those knocks on him coming out of Michigan. And just like his overall athleticism, how well do you flip right to left? How well do you pull right to left? How can you pull and kick to tackle? Like we see they ask Joe Bitonio to do all the time on play action boots.
Bitonio always doing it.
Yeah. So those are questions that I think a lot of teams had. And since he couldn't pre-draft test, those questions remained big questions. So you had to make assumptions. So he fell to the third round. There's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of physical ability there with Zach Zinter. We'll have to wait and see. I will have a better grasp on him once he gets a preseason in, because I want to see him go up daily against elite competition to see if he can adapt his game, because that's the question, right? His tape at Michigan looks good because he can win with power at the college level. The question is, when you're going up against that elite competition, can you adapt your game to add more than just power? Because you're not walking into the NFL and using power. Like Kevin Zeitler's one of the strongest guys out there. Quentin Nelson, strong. You can't win with power if you those guys, and he ain't that strong, right? Like, so he has to figure that out. And the question is, can he adapt? We won't find that out until we see him do it. And we really needed to be able to see him do it in this pre-draft process. I think that's why he fell to the third round. I think it's a fine pick. I think it's proper value at 85.
But that's what I was going to say. With his injury, do you think that's a blessing or a curse to the Browns? Because if, like you said, them games and things that you wanted to see, if he would have balled out, we would have never got this great talent. But he got hurt, and as you say, you didn't see it. He slept to the third round, and we got him. We could have got us a first round or second round a guard. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the gamble, right? It's kind of like the slot machine kind of challenge here, right? It's like, hey, he could have been somebody who should have been a first round pick. He could be somebody who maybe should have went in the fourth, right? And is more of a rotational guy. So I think that's a gamble that in the third round at 85, I would be willing to take, because like, I think Christian Haynes had been gone by that point. Like once I think he went like 4 picks ahead of him. So once Christian Haynes was gone, who I was like, no, that's a real deal starting junk card right there in the NFL that you could draft day one. But once he was gone, it's like, okay, now you can try to experiment if you want to go upside, right? Because even the guys left, Mason McCormick and Cooper Beebe, I don't think they have the upside that Zach Zinter offers you.
But I mean, okay, I know we got Bitonio and we got Wyatt Teller at our guards, but we didn't address this left tackle. What do you think about that? I mean, I know we might have got a value right there, but we didn't address this left tackle, and we got two great right tackles. We don't know what we're gonna do with my man over there in the left tackle. I don't know if they picked up his 5th-year option or what. But I mean, what are we gonna do with this left tackle? We need to protect Watson and his blind side. Yeah.
I was surprised that Sumatia was there. I mean, a lot of guys were there at 54. They didn't attack it. That tells me that their evaluation on Jed, their feeling on Jed is higher than what I think a lot of people outside of the Browns organization. And maybe that speaks to what they feel like the actual issues are with Jed aren't necessarily the same things that we think that they are. And that it's just he needs more time training with the muscle memory, or maybe they feel like maybe it's something like, hey, we feel good about Dawand Jones and where he's at with his cross training and his ability to flip sides. And, you know, if it becomes a situation where Dawand needs to step in there at left tackle, we feel like that's a fine situation for us to be in, because we can always go with somebody that we trust at right tackle, Jack Conklin, or even I always forget this young man's name out of Cincinnati, the right tackle. He's our swing prospect. James Hudson. Yes, James Hudson. You also have him. Yeah, that you could swing out there, or you could throw Jermaine Ifedi out there if that's what you want to do, or even Akeem Adeniji. But it tells me that their plan is not necessarily what we thought it was, right? Where it's like, hey, they're just going to try to replace Jed. Because if they were going to try to do it, I think there were picks there that made sense for them that they would have probably went with if that was really the plan. And I think that maybe we have to readjust what we think the plan is.
But with me, I think we got okay. We got with Jed Wills. I'm listening to them talk and some of the players talk, and they think we tripping. They think that he's pretty good from the players' perspective. So we got a problem. We got 3 good tackles. We got Jed Wills, and we got 2 good right ones. We got the one Clark. We got can't even get his name out.
Conklin.
Yeah, Conklin, and we got Old State. We got him. We got Dawand Jones. That's 3. That's who's starting that right? Who's starting that right for you?
Dawand Jones is starting that right. Like I don't think there's any doubt about it. Yeah, Dawand, you got to start Dawand at right. Like
so he just took his job.
Yeah. I mean, like I think Jack knew this the second he went down. I talked about this last summer before and he just went down. I was like, "Ooh, if I'm Jack Conklin, I'm sweating because the second you get hurt, you're not playing again." Right? Like it's just not gonna happen. Jack's play, it hasn't been bad, but it's not been marginal. It's if it's been better than Dawand Jones has been, it's marginal. Like unless Dawand Jones has a serious regression, it wouldn't make sense for him not to be the starter week 1 at right tackle. And it would also make sense to have that veteran player in Jack Conklin there, in case there is a injury, right? Like kind of play that 6-man role. And you expect the vet to be the one that can handle that from a maturity standpoint of understanding, hey, now my role has changed and be a professional. He's getting paid well to do it. So I think that, they'll definitely go that route with them because you if it's equal, you got to go with the youth and the upside of Dawand Jones and just look at how he can stonewall guys at the line of scrimmage. And then, but having 3 good tackles is much better than having no good tackles or just one. So I think they're in a good spot in the roster overall. I know people point to Jed as probably being maybe the worst starter on the team, but if Jed Wills is your worst starter, then you have a roster together that a lot of teams would love to have, right? Like you have quite the roster assembled.
Yes, and that's where, like, I know, like you said, that we can move Dawand Jones over to left. The way he played, I wouldn't touch him. I don't want. He played too good. He played lights out. I don't even think he gave up a sack. I don't think he gave up a sack his rookie season. So I mean, playing that good, I need you to stay over there, and we're gonna try to figure out what Jed Wills gonna do. And we're gonna go from there. Okay, now let's get into
the flexibility. Like what I said was like, hey, if Dawand can play left tackle, which I don't know is the case, right? It's one of those things you just don't know until you put him over there. And they feel like they can do that, and you can put Jack at right. Then you also have that flexibility there. It just gives you more ways to adjust. And in the NFL season full of variables, you want all the ways you can adjust as possible.
Yes. Okay. Now, what did you think about the what was that? Our 4th round pick, the wide receiver out of Louisville. What do you think about him?
I like Jamari Bragg. He was one of the guys that stood out to me. I mean, he stood out to me every time I've seen him play. I saw him randomly. I went to a Georgia State game against Georgia Southern a couple of years ago when he was there. And I remember he stood out number 1 in white and blue. In that game, he had a pretty good, I believe he had like 5 receptions for 75 yards and a long 50 in that game and a touchdown. And the quarterback play he was receiving was not very good. He was making some very impressive catches in that game. And then I saw him at the Senior Bowl. Didn't even really put together that was the same dude I saw at Georgia State because he had a Louisville helmet on. And he stood out to me there at the Senior Bowl. I like wide receivers who don't shy away from the contact, who don't shy away from the physical element of the position. I don't think he's one of those guys who does that. I know he had some drops at Louisville this last year, but I think that had more to do with him being a tough guy, right? And playing through a wrist injury. He kind of has some of that Coop in him, right? Where he won't complain about the injuries that he's playing through, but he's going to play through some injuries. I think he's somebody that, I like to call this class of wide receiver like the Willie Snead zone, where Willie Snead was like that guy that would be really annoying to play against because he would always get open on like 3rd and 5. Like that's where I think Jamari Thrash, the meat and potatoes of his career is going to be, is like a 600-yard, 4th, 3rd wide receiver that does those kind of things in the NFL. He's going to be competing with David Bell for his spot on the roster. And right now, I would expect him to beat out David Bell in that competition, or at least push him enough to be able to make the roster.
Yes, because I fell in love with David Bell. I don't know what it is that he can't get on the field. I don't know if it's his height or what is going on. Then we got Cedric Tillman. What did you think about Cedric Tillman his rookie year? Do you think that he's somebody that can come in? Now, I don't even think you think he can take Cedric Tillman's role, but watching him, his college highlights, to me, he looked like the role that we brought in Elijah Moore in to play the slide quick, bubble screens, do all these trick plays and all that stuff. I think I don't know, but what you think? I think that's the role that we because when we got Elijah Moore, Stefanski had a game plan. And that's what he said. He had a game plan. He said Elijah Moore was going to be lined up in the backfield. He's going to be lined in the slot. He's going to be on the outside. Elijah Moore is going to do a lot of things which we never seen. And I'm thinking this pick right here is maybe he trying to see, can he get what he didn't get out of Elijah Moore?
Yeah, I think he's not the athlete that Elijah Moore is. And I think that's kind of been David Bell's issue too. And because I thought with David Bell, he was either going to be one of those guys who has an incredible camp and plays right away, or he was going to kind of struggle because he was pretty made coming out of college, right? He was a route runner. He knew how to get separation at the college level, but he just wasn't physically gifted in the way that other wide receivers are. Jamari, I think it's a similar guy. He's going to win because of his smarts, but I do think he's a little bit of a better athlete than what David Bell was. David Bell, obviously a much more accomplished college player, though, than Jamari Thrash. I think that's why David went in the 3rd round versus him going in the 5th.
Yeah, but I mean, we're deep at wide receiver. We need Cedric Tillman to. What did you think about his rookie year before I get into Cedric Tillman? I think his rookie year he made some mistakes. He got to grow a little bit, get them routes down. But what did you think about his rookie year? It wasn't nothing to scream about.
Yeah, I mean, like the talent is there. He's a very talented player. I do worry because the issues that he has are not issues that this team has any patience for, especially the quarterback position, right? Where I worry about Cedric Tillman is that every veteran quarterback that was in the game when he was in the game has had a time where they're mad at Cedric Tillman not being where Cedric Tillman's supposed to be. Now, I don't think this has to do with him not, like, I would assume he knows the playbook, right? I think that would be a crazy assumption to think that he doesn't know the playbook, because it's not that difficult to remember a playbook at the NFL level when it's your job, right? But there's something about how the play is coming out that he has an issue interpreting for whatever reason. It seems like he's not getting the checks. Like he doesn't understand and know what to do when he gets the checks in these different formations. And that's where I think he's having these issues. Is the NFL game is just infinitely more complicated than the college game, especially at the wide receiver position. So in college, he might have just been told, run 3 routes. Don't worry about what's going on at the line of scrimmage. If he says Charlie, then you check to a post. That's pretty much as complicated as it is. You go to the NFL and you're like, okay, well, when we're in this bunch, we want you to look at this safety. If this safety punt comes in, then you need to adjust this route and adjust the depth on this post about 7 yards. So adjust your angle and your target. Or if you're getting tight press coverage and your quarterback checks, then you need to be downfield as fast as possible. Or you need to understand that this is zone now. So you need to hover versus just straight up run it. Like there's so many different nuances to how a play can be adjusted by the quarterback, because if you're Deshaun Watson, if you're Joe Flacco when he was out there, you got veteran quarterbacks, Deshaun's been a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's played like 7 seasons of NFL football. He wants to be able to finely tune that play before he hits go. And if you can't be trusted to understand those notes, you just aren't going to be on the field. And that's what I worry about with Cedric Tillman. Like, is this going to get to a point to where he is not good enough at this stuff to where Deshaun's going to not want him on the field? And if Deshaun don't want you on the field, if the veteran quarterback, because it's not going to change with Jameis, right? Mm-hmm. Like if Deshaun don't want you on the field, then you're not going to be on the field, right? This is something that he could have a problem with a younger quarterback and a lot of time to learn it. But right now, you got to figure that out. Like, it's tough, but you got to figure that out. And I think he's at that battle right now of figuring out whatever it is that he cannot seem to get right when it comes to line of scrimmage adjustments and doing what his quarterback's expecting him to do with those adjustments.
And I thank you. Thank you for saying that, because I've been saying this on this podcast all last year. It was noticeable when Flacco got in. Flacco threw his interceptions, but I told everybody Flacco's like the first 3 games, his first three interceptions wasn't all on Flacco. It was all on Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman didn't know how to set down in a zone. Like you said, do he know the playbook? Yeah, I think he knows the playbook, but he just don't. If they play in a zone, he just know I need to stop, turn, and I'm gonna sit right here. They be like, no, you got to get in the middle of that zone. You got to get. That's where the quarterback's throwing it, and he just turned it around, just doing what I was taught in practice, and he just not in the right spot. He got to know. He got to know where to go, where the soft spot in the zone's at, and I think that's where he's lacking at.
It's the fine details. It's not just knowing where the soft spot is. It's like, okay, it looks like they're gonna blitz. I want to be shallow. Let me cut the depth on this route a couple yards, right? And it's also just knowing what your quarterback prefers, because the same thing that Joe Flacco might prefer. And this is where I will cut him some slack, right? He played with 5 different quarterbacks last year. So there is some slack here, because the adjustments and the checks that Joe Flacco is going to make might be different from what Deshaun wants, right? Joe Flacco likes to back up, throw on his back foot, and kind of just like throw a ball up, where Deshaun, if he gets into trouble, he's going to step up, squeeze out the pocket, and then try to make a play while going to his right or left. So that's a different adjustment you make. If you see a blitz, you want to leave yourself the room to be able to see him and adjust to where Deshaun is, versus with Joe, you want to just get your hips square to him so he can throw you a target or something, or you can be ready to get to a target. So it was a tough spot for him to be in, and I want to reiterate that. But the spot's just tough, and that's where it is with Cedric, where it's like, hey, he's talented enough, he's a good enough player to get on the field consistently. The question is, can he conquer these things that have clearly been an issue for him to get on the field consistently? Because if he doesn't, like if we get to training camp and you see clips of Deshaun throwing an interception while Cedric's being the target of the ball and Deshaun's not happy, there's only so many times that's going to be allowed to happen before other guys get opportunities at that spot.
Oh yeah, and that's what I talked about on this podcast. Like after about 3 games and 3 picks going towards him, Joe Flacco stopped throwing him the ball. I don't know if he caught another ball.
They brought in David Bell, right? Like he was like, you know what, I can't do it. Like whatever he's offering, we'll go without, and we'll just go David Bell here, because I know if I run stick and I need somebody to adjust the route, David's going to be 6 yards depth. He's going to be right where I need him to be, where I just can't trust where Cedric's going to be, when he's going to break to this ball, when he's going to turn around. I just can't trust it. And That's a key element, right? Talent does not always get you your spot in the NFL. You gotta be able to figure out these things. These are the things that separate you in the league. And Cedric Tillman has enough talent to be as good as he wants to be in the NFL, but that's the kind of stuff that if he doesn't master, he's gonna be talking about he didn't get enough opportunity, and that's why.
Yeah. Yes, and that's what I tell everybody when they try to get on Deshaun or anybody. I said, a quarterback and a wide receiver got to be on the same page. A quarterback needs to know where his wide receiver's at, because when they run in their routes before when they making a break, that quarterback need to trust you because that ball is gone. I need you. I'm throwing it where I expect you to be, and if you ain't there, it's going to get picked, and I'm going to look bad because I'm going to get all the blame. And Deshaun, he's been here with this going on his third year, but he's 6 games. 6 games both times? I mean, he haven't played too many reps with these wide receivers. Once Deshaun get on page with his wide receivers, Deshaun is the man. I don't care what nobody say. Deshaun still got it. He can read. When I just listen to him and his boy Quincy Avery on their podcast, how he just breaks down film. That man got it. That man got it. It just
he's a very cerebral quarterback, and again, that points to why it's important for these wide receivers to be able to know that part of the game. And that's why I think Jamari Thrash, like if he does find a way to sneak on the field while Deshaun's out here, I think he's a really good scramble drill guy. I think he's a really smart wide receiver. And he's the kind of wide receiver that I think Deshaun would like a lot, because he has a good instinct of like, oh, he's breaking, I know how to run this route so he sees me. Okay, I know how to be QB friendly here, right? Like that's the kind of game that he has. And I know people like Deshaun Watson has a very cerebral approach to the game. He is somebody who takes that part of it very seriously, the pre-snap stuff. Like he does a lot of adjustments. He wants to see it, and he wants you to adjust to it as you see it. And that's just something that the young fella got to figure out.
Yes. So what do you think about our offense? Do we have any holes left in our offense, and do we have any holes in our defense that we still need to address?
I think running the ball, like we have to see what Nick Chubb's going to be. If Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb, you have no run game issue. If Nick Chubb is not Nick Chubb, then you have I think a decent run game with D'Onta Foreman. Like as long as I think Jerome Ford got a bad rap last year because he was forced to be a feature back when he's just not a feature back. What he is a really good number 2 back. Like if he has to take occasional carries and he can receive, I think people will really like what Jerome Ford brings to the table, because he's a home run hitter as a running back, and home run hitters don't make good every down backs. And he's a good pass protector. I think he's good in passing situations. So I think Jerome Ford, like as long as somebody else can take that toll of the every down back from him, if Nick Chubb's not in the game, which I think D'Onta Foreman is more capable of than maybe Kareem Hunt was last year at 29 years old, then I think that they'll be in a good spot there. But yeah, that's the 2 spots.
What do you think about was it Nyheim Hines? I like Hines. I like him too.
He's a nice veteran player that I think will get a couple carries. I think he's mainly there for special teams purposes. But again, if Nick Chubb can't go, then you have another body. Again, just more bodies you could throw in that rotation so you can allow each one of them to do what they do well, right? You want D'Onta Foreman to be first and second down guy. You want Nyheim Hines and Jerome Ford to trade off third down duties, right? And split that responsibility. And as long as you can keep putting guys in positions to be successful, you'll get the most out of each of them.
What did you think about the Jerry Jeudy pickup?
I'm a big fan of the Jerry Jeudy pickup. I think he's an underrated player. I think he has suffered from something similar to what Jed Wills has suffered, right? When we talk about Jed Wills, we're always comparing him to Tristan Wirfs, because in the back of our head, we always think we could have had Tristan Wirfs. Now, if Tristan Wirfs would have went 3rd in that draft, and the only other tackle there is Mekhi Becton, all of a sudden we fine with Jed Wills, right? Because we're like, you know what? I guess we got what we got. right? Like it makes it easier to accept it when there's not always that like thing hanging over that you should have picked this better guy. Jerry Jeudy has been living in the shadow of CeeDee Lamb. He's been living in the shadow of Justin Jefferson because he got taken 15th and they got taken after him, right? So for 3 years, Bronco fans have been telling him that, you know, we expect you to be this. Look at what we missed out on because we took you. But if you take him away from that environment when nobody cares who you took over him because he's not with his original team, you start to see a guy who's pretty consistently giving you 14 yards per target, which is about 1,000 yards level of production, right, throughout his whole career. So he's a number 2 receiver. I think he's definitively a 2 until he proves otherwise. I think he does need to get better at catching through contact, consistency, and just like I think he's somebody who's going to benefit from playing on a good team. And if the Browns have a good record, I think he will have a lot more energy. I think he got discouraged in Denver. I think that was a very discouraging situation for him. You know, as much as we like to act like we are the toughest people in the world and we're going to power through any kind of negativity, we like working places when we appreciate it, right? Like, you know, it makes working easier when I can look at the comment section and be like, they saying nice stuff. Cool. You know, it's not why I do it, but it helps, right? And if you go somewhere to work and a team legend and Steve Smith telling you trash or you wasn't worth the pick, you are part of the losing culture of the team, and that the Super Bowl version of the Denver Broncos would never have a bum like you on the roster, which is a direct quote from Mark Schlereth. Of course, you're not going to be like super motivated to work for that organization and super motivated to work in that city. Now, that doesn't mean that like everybody in Cleveland needs to say nice stuff about Jerry Jeudy in order for Jerry Jeudy to be good. It's just that was the environment, and that environment existed because he went 15th overall in that draft. That's not the reality for the Browns. We comparing him to like Gabe Davis. Like, it's just not the same thing. So it's a lot easier for him to live up to expectations. I think once he has that burden off of his back, I think he will unlock a much better version of himself, because I think that's really been something that's been holding him back. It's just he's been dealing with that burden.
But do you think some of it was warranted or some? Because I think I don't really think they didn't mind him in Denver. It was just those drops. So that's why when they compare him to the rest of them didn't have them drops that he was having.
It was warranted given what the situation was for Denver, right? Those drops are super unacceptable when you're the 15th overall pick in a draft that has 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers, right? Or 2 guys who could be Hall of Fame wide receivers that went after you. That's just not going to seem acceptable, right? Would it be something that they'd be like, he pretty much had the same year that Zay Flowers had, and nobody's like, Zay Flowers is a bum, right? Like, you know, like you just wouldn't like, you notice that kind of stuff when the microscope is on him, and the microscope is on him because he went 15th overall in that draft. And that's why I think a lot of people that's why I think it turned into a bad environment. Not that like the criticism wasn't warranted, but because he was the 15th overall pick. But I think just him being in a situation where the pressure is going to be off a little bit as far as what he has to personally live up to, I think will allow him to become a better person and receiver.
Okay, I got about three questions to get off, and then I'm gonna let you go. And I thank you for your time. A lot of people, sometimes I be in my own little world, so forgive me for this question. But everybody, when they restructured Chubb's contract, what do you think about that? I didn't look into the details and all that stuff, but what do you think about that contract? And what is everybody in an uproar? Why is everybody happy about a restructure? We gained some money, but did we just do over Nick Chubb's?
I mean, you gain some money and some insurance if he's not able to play at a high level. If he does play at a high level, you're essentially going to pay him similar to what you would have paid already. You know, it was just a move that you did to ensure that to everybody. And I think the excitement about the move was it signaled, Nick Chubb's not going anywhere this year. And I think there were some people, I wasn't one of these people, but I do think there were people who were legitimately concerned that the Browns wouldn't be able to hang on to him. And I think to them, the restructure kind of like set in stone that he's not going to go anywhere, because once you restructure somebody, you don't trade them or cut them.
My thing is, I understand all that, but he signed a contract. He had that money, and now we put it into bonuses. To me, for the team, the contract was great, but for Nick Chubb's, who's saying that he's going to come back? He already had that money in the bank. Now we put it in incentives, which I don't know what the incentives are. It could be, hey, get 1,000, get 1,200. But if he's coming back and he's hurt, he's not getting that, and he's not getting the money that was already guaranteed to him. He got, he took one for the team.
Well, he had guaranteed money, so he still gets the same guarantees that he had beforehand.
Guaranteed,
but yeah, I mean, I think it's also Nick Chubb betting on himself. I think there's probably accelerators in there where he could possibly get more money than what he was going to get, and more incentives. It was just, I think he is betting on himself a little bit here, and saying, hey, I think I'm going to come back. I think I'm going to be back, if not week one, relatively early in the season. And I think I'm going to be able to provide high quality football for this team and have one of my better years. And if he does, I think he'll cash out.
And the last thing to get you out of here on, what do you think about moving the new stadium, and do you want a dome or no?
I don't mind a dome. Like, I don't mind it. If they do a new stadium, just like make sure they do it right? Like make something that the city can find some pride in. And like, like how Minnesota has that beautiful stadium and people come just to see it. And it's like, just do it right? Like make something nice, make something worthwhile, make something that's not just going to be a place where people watch football, but, something that can aesthetically feel like a bit of a landmark for the city, right? I think that's what people want. The Browns are a huge part of the culture of the city of Cleveland. And if you could make the stadium feel like an extension of that culture that they share with this city, I think it will soften the blow of that team no longer being downtown anymore, which does matter, right? Like if you're not downtown, it does affect people like street vendors, where it's harder to get licensing and spots there, or t-shirt vendors and even bartenders and stuff like that, like the local businesses downtown, from brick and mortar to even more transportable models of business. So, you do worry about that, and it will be weird not having the Muni lot be a big part of Cleveland Browns football, but everything changes, right? And I think it's just ironic that we spent like 20 years not caring if that stadium lived or died. Like we could not, all I heard growing up about the new Cleveland Browns stadium was how it just wasn't like old Municipal, right? It never got as loud as Municipal. It never felt the way, it just felt generic. It didn't feel like, and now it's interesting that the team has gotten good in recent years, and there is now nostalgia for this stadium that if they would have built a new stadium 5 years ago, everybody would have been like, yeah, who cares? Like, get it off that plot of land. It's cursed, all of that stuff. But now that people have fond memories in that stadium built since like 2018. It's something that people are going to miss. And I'm like, that is the most Cleveland thing for that stadium, is that that stadium is going to probably be torn down at the height of its popularity, after spending so many years being a joke for what it wasn't, right? And I just find that just a fascinating thing when you talk about like the history of the Browns, how that stadium is now, like, people are going to be nostalgic. They're going to want the sound of the fence being smacked up at the top rafters replicated in some way. Like, there is actual nostalgia, and you have seen it just like me, where maybe you were like, it ain't like Municipal, right? Because I never got to go to Municipal, right? But that's what I heard growing up, how it just wasn't like Municipal, and how you could be right on the floor with at Municipal in the dog pound, and it was just a fence guarding you, and how much better it was, and there were these poles. And it's just fascinating to me that stadium could have been torn down so many different times and nobody would have cared. But I
don't think it's the same because of the fans. We got different. Them old fans. That's when the dog pound was the dog pound. Now anybody can jump in the dog pound. Back in the day, we gonna take your uniform up off of you. But but how do you feel? Because you stay in Cleveland, right?
I don't live in Cleveland anymore, no.
Oh, no. Okay, you moved out, because I was going to ask you, how would you feel paying for the new stadium?
Yeah, see, now that's the thing, right? Like, I think they should just be footing the bill for this stadium that they're mainly going to be benefiting from. Yes. We'll see what the Haslams try to do. They've really been trying to win this PR war that they lost early in their ownership. So we'll see how they handle this. I think they should be paying for the stadium, and the city shouldn't be paying for it, because it's not like we get discounted tickets if you have
I was just saying that.
Right? Like, if that was what they wanted to do, if you get 50% off because you paying for the stadium, and you get like free, you get to bring your own water into the stadium. Okay, cool. I don't think people would trip, but y'all want to monetize everybody once they get into that stadium and they're locked into their ecosystem. So if that's what you want to do, then I think it's fair for people to push back on that, and I think people should.
Okay, well, I want a dome because I don't like sitting out in the cold. I don't like cold at all, and I just wanted to get that off. And I just wanted to
what that stadium needs more than anything, too? More escalators. Like, there's that one escalator to get to the top of that stadium. Yeah, like, and then it breaks. So you got to take the long tunnel, or like if you leave before they switch it to, because there's one escalator, there's one, and it goes up and down. And I'm like, who designed this like this? Like that's what I'd be excited about. Like, just make this thing be able to go up and down. Like, you ever been to Mercedes-Benz? They got like 15 escalators in it. It's so easy to get to the top level of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It is that Brown Stadium. Getting up to that 500 section and then the climb they make you do, and then the windshield up there.
Waiting in the line for that one escalator. The people cutting you off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then somebody decides they want to walk down it. Like,
I never thought about that, but tell everybody your name and where they can find you. I'm gonna get you out of here.
Oh yeah, Quincy Carrier. You can find me on youtube.com/Quincy Carrier, or YouTube, or just put Quincy Carrier in YouTube, your YouTube search, and I'll pop up right there.
And this is your boy Thorough, and this is the My Dog Podcast, where my opinions are just my opinions. I thank y'all for listening. I thank y'all for watching. And I thank my special guest, my superstar right here. This is the man. Y'all go on YouTube or My Dog Podcast. Please do me a favor. I love showing love and sharing love. Go on this man's YouTube page. Go on all his social medias and just type his name in. Follow him everywhere. He might not have been on his Facebook page in 10 years, but guess what? Go on there and hit add. But I thank you for just coming on and giving me your time. And I just want to thank you once again.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
First, I want to say thank you to Dee and Jimmy Haslam and the Haslam family for giving me this awesome opportunity to be the quarterback of this historical organization in the Cleveland Browns.
Watson looking for the edge. Watson is going to stroll in for the Cleveland touchdown.
Hey,